Hello, everyone, and welcome. We are so glad you can join us for today's Xcelerate customer webinar. My name is Liam Reiser, and I'll be your admin for today's session. Whether you've been with Xcelerate since day one or you're just getting started, we're excited to have you here. You're in for a great session with insights, product updates, and some time-saving tips to help you get the most out of the platform. And of course, our new Xactimate integration. We're very excited. And now let's get started. Many of you already know today's speaker, Nathan Link, but for those who may be newer to Xcelerate or just joining us, Nathan is our Director of Product and one of the original forces behind Xcelerate's journey. Since 2018, he's worn just about every hat you can imagine, from co-founder, product visionary, onboarding guide, and trusted customer service advocate. His passion is helping contractors eliminate tech headaches so they can focus on the real work. Whether it's designing intuitive features or ensuring smooth integrations, Nathan's fingerprints are all over what makes Xcelerate such a powerful and user-friendly tool. We're lucky to have him with us today to walk us through some exciting updates and share what's coming next. So with that, Nathan, I'll turn the time over to you.
Thank you, Liam, for the introduction. I'm really excited to be here. It's been a long time coming. A lot of you guys have been with us early on and have waited for this moment. So glad we can all share it together today. Quick background on me. I've been in the restoration industry since 2014. I worked at a service master for about 5-6 years. And then I moved to Arizona for a couple years while we started Xcelerate. And I've been with Xcelerate ever since. This has been something right out of the gate in 2019 we knew we wanted to do. It's been a really long time coming. Thank you for your patience as we worked through a lot of different things. I live here in Washington State, so just a couple quick pictures. This is the beautiful state of Washington. Highly recommend to come in the summer. Do not come in the winter unless you really love rain, because this is the rain capital of the United States otherwise. So anyways, let's jump in to the agenda that we're going to cover today. And this is really why you guys are all here. We're going to start out. We've already done the welcome and introductions. We're going to look at why we decided to build the integration. A lot of you may already know this, but we're going to dig in more in depth so you can really see some of the pain points that this integration is going to be solving. We'll go through a full demonstration of what the integration does, how to utilize it, how it provides value, and different components of that. So the steps you guys need to take, and then we'll wrap up with the Q&A. There are some frequently asked questions that we're going to start with on the Q&A because we've already gotten them, and I want to make sure we address those up front. And then we'll get to any of the questions that you guys have, as you can put them into the chat or put them into the Q&A section as we proceed. So feel free to raise your hand or ask questions as we move forward. All right, so let's start with, why did we build the integration? So one of the primary reasons we went this direction to build an integration with Xactimate was for companies who do reconstruction. Now, I know this group, not everybody here on this call is going to be doing reconstruction work, and that's perfectly fair. There's many reasons this integration is going to help you do your work as well. The pain point we were hearing quite often was that once you scale to a certain point and you decide to open your reconstruction or rebuild division, it's hard to manage. Margins are very thin. And we've also heard that there are many companies who ended up losing money on their reconstruction department because they were not able to measure their profitability, measure their job margins properly. And we didn't do enough in our platform leading up to this integration to provide that type of structure. And so that's something that's changing now. We have work orders that are going to be generated with these line items. We'll talk about that and how it can help you manage your reconstruction budgets and work orders. Another pain point we kept hearing was that when you want to hire subcontractors to do work, you're going to want to send them a scope of work. A lot of companies had very different processes on how they would go about sending that scope of work. What is the required line items that a particular sub might need access to? There was no standard way to provide that. That's another problem we're solving with this integration and with some of the development we've done on work orders. In a general sense, 84% of restoration contractors utilize Xactimate. They list it as their top choice for writing estimates or invoices. Based on a CNR 2024 State of the Industry report, if we looked at and surveyed our own customer base, it might even be higher than that. But Xactimate is the golden standard of the restoration industry. So an integration makes a ton of sense for a variety of reasons. One would be that right now, for an Xcelerate user, you're forced to upload the estimate manually. So for the larger companies, that's not that big of a deal. You might just assign it to your admin staff or project managers. They're going to go and do that step. But it is an extra step. They might forget it. They might do it late. There's many reasons why it might not be done consistently. And then you're missing both the PDF document and the dollar amount of that estimate. The smaller companies may just skip that step altogether, and so they don't get to track the pre-revenue, the pre-invoice dollar amount of a job, which is actually a very important number if you're trying to project out where your revenue will be by looking at your estimate values before they're invoiced. There's a variety of reasons that the integration is going to attempt to solve all these problems. These are some of the most impactful ones that we've identified right out of the gate. One of the things I want to address right up front is when we're breaking down the estimates and generating work orders, there were many different ways that other competitors of ours do it. And also we could do some manual work. We could maybe export the line items via an Excel sheet, things of that nature. But when you do that, what you're going to end up getting is a line item from Xactimate like this, and you'll get maybe your calculation, your unit price, and a total. This is the level of depth you get. It's definitely useful, and you could potentially build work orders with just this information. I believe some of our competitors are doing that, but it is missing some very crucial pieces to why Xactimate is so good at what it does in the first place. What we wanted to ensure with our work orders and what we're able to give you guys to control your budgets is the actual breakdown that makes up the dollar amount. So in addition to the 969 total that we have, we can see how much of that is a labor base, a labor burden, a markup, how much of it's equipment, how much of it is material. Then with those components, we will auto generate a budget based on the work order budget itself. So it upfront loads a proper budget based on the actual line item components. Now you have the ability to override that, but this built-in auto calculation is one of the primary values that you're going to be getting when you're generating these work orders. It's not just line items, it's also the component breakdown that gives you a clear view into why the budget is what it is. And then you can adjust, you can add, you can manipulate that moving forward. So that's one of the primary drivers that we really wanted to nail with this integration. Let's move on. I know there's at least a hand raised. I don't see any questions so far. Let me see here. Awesome. So let's get into the demo. Let's see what this integration does. I know some of you probably saw the icon in the Xcelerate and you were wondering, okay, how do I get access to this? What's going on? So let's jump into it. I've got a couple tabs open and we're going to already assume we're integrated. I'll show you the process of signing up and getting integrated. Once you're integrated, what you will see inside of the platform is an Xactimate button like this that you can click on. When you do that, it will allow you to create an estimate right there. It first starts off gray. It's a familiar pattern. This is what we do with all of our integrations. You click on it. Do you want to create an estimate? You click yes or no. If you click yes, it creates the estimate directly in Xactimate. So all of that initial entry that you would have to go new project, you have to type all this stuff in, enter the address, enter the phone number, again, all of that entire process is taken away. And all you have to do is click a button, click yes. Once that's been done, it's going to change the interface. So it turns dark blue. That tells you there's been an Xactimate estimate created. You can click on it and see the estimate in here, and you can click and create another one. You can create as many estimates as you need for this particular reconstruction job. We did add the Xactimate link here. All this does is link you directly into Xactimate so you don't have to bookmark it or search around. It just makes it quicker to jump in. Right now, we don't have a way to deep link it into the estimate itself. We'd love to see that, and we're pushing to see if that's something that we can do because that is a very seamless transition. But for now, you get to open the link and you'll see that the estimate will show up right here. So this is the job that we pushed in. See right here. What you'll notice is that it is going to have this little letter A here. That means assignment. In order to connect to the Xcelerate platform, we use what's known as an assignment, and that is how we synchronize the data. If you have an estimate that you already wrote in Xactimate and you want to take a $100,000 estimate and merge it with the estimate that we've sent over to Xactimate, it's fairly simple to do that. You would, over on the far right, click on the merge, and you will pick the secondary project. Make sure that the first project is the one you want to merge to. Click add, and then you will merge it. You can merge existing estimates in, and all the sketch and line item data will exist. You can also copy the sketch and line items manually. That's a little bit slower, but there's multiple ways to get that estimate copied if it already existed prior to the integration being set up. That covers what creating an estimate looks like. Once the estimate's been created, we can open that up. I've already pre-populated an estimate here just to save us a little bit of time so that I can show you some of the other steps that the integration covers. One thing that you will have to do in order to send the estimate to Xcelerate is you will have to complete it inside of the Xactimate system. For normal work that you may have been doing, this might be slightly unfamiliar to you. To send the estimate back to Xcelerate, you will have to send it by completing it. And so looks like we're taking a little bit of time here to load the Xactimate. This right here is in a already submitted state. And so for me to make modifications, I need to mark it in progress. So there's a $15,000 reconstruction job, and I'm going to mark it in progress. All right. Now it has been opened up, and I can go back into Xactimate and adjust the estimates. Maybe I forgot to write a line item. I'll make an adjustment here really quick. We're going to double it. So we've just increased one of the line items. We're going to make a change. We have to go into the complete step here. We're going to inspect, and we are going to have to go through whatever process it has here to finalize and then mark it complete. And once we do that, we can click yes or no on this. It resequences the lines. This will then send it back to Xcelerate. When the estimate does get sent from Xcelerate to Xactimate, make sure to set your parameters with your opening statement, company header, and closing statement. Some of you may not have that set up, and it is by default using a carrier profile, not the contractor profile. So that is something just to take note of. Make sure the company header, opening statement, and closing statement are entered in there for your company so that it does format properly. Once we have gone through and saved and exited, it should sync back to Xcelerate. So if I click on this Xactimate button, you will see the estimate amount will come back over here, and we can see that it has synced. If I go into the financial tab, we will now see that dollar amount and the estimate that shows up here. I can view the PDF estimate here as well and open it up, and it will be that final draft estimate that has synced over from Xactimate. Let's jump back to the demonstration here. We covered pushing customer data into an estimate in Xactimate. We covered the process to sync back to Xcelerate. What we're going to cover at this point is taking that estimate that has been returned to Xcelerate and generating the work orders from that. If we open up on the left-hand side here, work orders, we now have a manage button next to the add new. We had an ability to add some work orders manually in the past. We can look at the estimate that has come back and generate work orders. There are some options here. We can include or exclude overhead and profit. We can exclude or include taxes, or exclude or include market adjustments. So I'm going to include them to start and generate these work orders. If we go back to the estimate here, I'm not going to open that up. It might take a minute. All of the line items have a certain Xactimate category, And what we're doing is aggregating all of the line items by the categories here. So you can see plumbing, contents, cabinets, floor coverings, painting, drywall, insulation. These are the work orders that we would be able to hire a sub to do. But we also can open up the component breakdowns. These are all the lines that we brought over with the category of the line and the dollar amount associated with that line for all of those line items. Now, before we get into how we calculate the budgets, you may decide right out of the gate, well, I'm only hiring, let's say, one sub. I just want to assign it to one. Select all of them and merge them in, and you pick a particular one and keep it. What will happen is all the lines get merged into one. Even though you've broken it all out and it was a bunch of different work orders, you've determined that you want to assign it all to one sub. Now we have all of the lines associated into one work order just because that's what we wanted to do. Now we can see that we have a budget of $9,700, and that base value is essentially what we, the contractor, are going to be getting paid, giving us a margin or a budget percent of 34.9%. We have the ability at this point to do quite a few things. If I had other line items, I can move some of these out, move them to a different work order. I can create a manual work order and move some lines into that. If I wanted to sort by all the equipment and delete the equipment out, maybe I don't want to include that. There's a lot of options you have here. Maybe there's a particular component where you want to adjust the budget versus the base amount. You can see that we have two columns, and the budget and the base amount is broken down by the line itself. On some of these, they're identical, so they're loaded into the budget. In some of them, as you scroll down, you'll see that they're not. Markup is by default removed. So you're going to get paid $75. The subcontractor is going to get paid $0. So this is how you are making the margin in the first place. You might not know that this is how you're making the margin, but this is really the component that you need to be making the margin on. And if you can't make the margin with these, then you need to adjust it. But at least now you know why you have to adjust it, why you're going to lose some money on a particular work order or a sub because the labor base is just too low and the sub's cost and the actual cost of the labor is higher than what Xactimate pricing is providing. So this is going to help you make those decisions. It's going to help you get that data for the budget information. Now, once we have all of these merged in, we can scroll, we can see the budgeted hours. That's just what Xactimate calculates. You may not want to show this to your sub. You can zero it out. It's not a big deal. By default, we do provide that and say, hey, guess what? You have all these work orders or line items from Xactimate. How long is it supposed to take based on what Xactimate calculated? And this is what Xactimate believes it will take to do this work. Now you have these tags. If you decide that you don't want to include all of those, you can remove that, label it, maybe a custom label if you want. This is for your own classification, so you're very clear on what this particular work order is going to be associated with. We can assign it to one of your subcontractors. We have this $9,700 budget cost. If the sub only agreed to do it for $12,000, we can type that in and see that percent drop. And that's perfectly fine, but at least you know that you made that adjustment. If you need to reset it back to the calculations that the line items have, you can click this button and it'll reset to where the calculations would be based on Xactimate line items or any of the adjustment line items you've put in. So this calculates off line items, but you, the project manager or estimator, are always in the driver's seat and can dictate what this work order is going to cost. All right. I know you guys have a bunch of questions. I'd like to continue to move forward so that we can get to those questions. I know there's a lot of engagement on it. Going back to our demonstration slideshow here, we've covered creating an estimate, syncing back to Xcelerate. We've covered converting the Xactimate estimate into the work orders by the Xactimate category. We've touched on moving and merging work orders and line items. And we've also touched on calculating budgets and assigning subcontractors. In case you missed that, how you assign that sub is you'd edit it right here and assign it to one of your subs. It would have to be a contact that exists inside of your contact list here. So in your CRM, you would have to add them as a contractor in your CRM organizations in order for them to show up in that list. Once you've gotten all of this set up, you've got your budget amount. Now you're ready to send the scope of work. You can click on this PDF button, which will generate a work order. You have some options here. Let me see if I have photos. I don't have photos. Give me 1 second while I upload those photos. So I just need to quickly add a couple photos here so we can look at the process. All right. So if we have some photos in the job, we can generate a work order. If we generate a work order, we can select photos. This is a particular work order for a particular subcontractor. And maybe we don't need to provide all the photos. We only want to provide a couple photos. We can unselect all and pick a photo, save it. We can include on the scope, the line items. We can include the sketch. We can click generate. At this point, it's going to generate a work order. It's going to put in the customer name. It's going to put in a work order number. It'll put in the budgeted hours if you left that in. It'll give them the job address. It'll give who it's assigned to. It'll give how much you're paying the sub. They're never going to see the dollar amount that you're getting paid. They will get the scope of work by the room breakdown. So they'll see in the bedroom, these are the activities and the dimensions that are needed. In the other room, same thing, and so on. I merged everything into one. So this is a very big scope of work that's required. If there are F9 notes, they'll show up here on the rows as well. I don't think there were any on this. The photos, they can click on and blow up. At the bottom, we have the actual sketch that they can see all in one document. And as you can see over here, we've generated that PDF. I can now click send. And as long as this subcontractor has the email address associated to them, that would already include that email address, I can write my email to them, click send, and it will send them this work order. So that's the generation of the PDF, the options for generating that PDF, and the sending of that PDF to the sub. One final thing we're going to cover here on the integration piece is that we do have statuses and also the ability to assign costs. Once the sub is going to the job, once the sub's doing the work, we have statuses and you can edit, you can move through a checklist. So for instance, a project manager can confirm that work was completed, which then will allow somebody at the back office to pay the invoice when it comes in, things like that. They can approve the work. Once the invoice is received, it can go to invoice received. When the work order is completely closed, the payment's gone out, and we're good with it, you can close it out. That will essentially close the work order system for that work order. So going back to this list, the job list, we do have a column called open work orders, and you can see that there's 0. You can always filter to ones that have open work orders. As soon as you close them, they no longer show up here. This is a quick and easy way to identify any jobs, any reconstruction jobs, or any jobs at all that have any open work orders. And you get that to 0. Now there's nothing left. You can close it out. If there's still one open, then you know that there's still work to be done. So it allows you kind of a checks and balances for your work orders and to make sure that you have the work orders closing out properly. Now, going back to the work orders here, I did want to bring up one other thing, that is the assigning of costs. So a lot of you guys use QuickBooks as an integration for your costs, but let's say in this case, we paid the sub the actual bill. So we're going to go here and we're going to call it a bill, and it's going to be $11,500. A lot of this, as I mentioned, would come over via the integration, but you have a cost now of $11,500. If you go into the work orders, you can see that you have costs, and then you have costs in the sub category. There's nothing there, but you have 11,000 in the overall job category. So if you click on that, you can quickly associate the cost to the work order, and this will give you a true breakdown of what the sub cost versus what you had intended on it costing. You can see the over under there. At the bottom here, you'll also see the total you're getting paid, the amount you expected to pay, and the actual amount that you paid. Target margin and current margin. All of that is calculated as long as you're associating those costs to the work orders. so that you can get a true budget breakdown for the job. So with that, I am going to ask a question, and this question is going to determine whether we demonstrate a different part of the system. The question that I want to ask you is whether or not you utilize Xactimate Mobile, because there is some functionality that we're considering to expand on the Xactimate Mobile side, but we don't want to spend too much effort on Xactimate Mobile when it's not part of our core customer base's needs. It'd be very nice for you to provide your answers. How much are you using it? Is Xactimate Mobile? Another question I probably should have asked is it expected to be going up in the future? Just because we see that mobile first has it's a trend, and a lot of companies are moving more mobile first. They're wanting to be able to run their entire business on mobile. It would be nice to get that. Thank you for participating. Very helpful. Looks like there's definitely a breakdown there where there are a good chunk of users who do utilize the mobile. I'm glad to hear that. I'm going to switch to a quick share for the mobile app just so we can see what is available on the mobile for you guys who are using Xactimate Mobile. Let me share my screen here. Share. It looks like you can see my screen. I'm going to end that poll real quick. Thank you once again. So with the Xactimate integration on mobile, it's very similar, very simple integration here. So there's going to be the Xactimate button. You're going to be able to click on that and it'll allow you to create the Xactimate estimate, just like you do on the web, just like you can do with Encircle. You will unfortunately have to manually switch to Xactimate Mobile, but it will already exist in there. You can start writing your estimate and submit it back inside of Xactimate Mobile. If you go to the estimates, you will see the estimate sync back here with that dollar amount. Using the mobile app of Xcelerate and the mobile app of Xactimate, you could send the job to Xactimate Mobile, write the estimate, and have it come back to Xcelerate with the dollar amount before you even leave. If that's interesting to you, if you're looking for that immediate real-time estimate writing ability. I know that Xactimate Mobile doesn't offer everything the web version has, which is why a lot of people still prefer to utilize it on a desktop or on their full platform. But some of you guys are using it, so I wanted to show you that's available. While the work orders on Xactimate or Xcelerate Mobile are not fully functional with all of the details that are on the web version, you are able to actually look and see those work orders here and update the statuses and the budget percents for the mobile app. You're able to utilize some of those work order functionality here on the mobile app today. It's a lot newer than some of the other stuff, so definitely give us your feedback on that. And if you are looking to get the similar functionality, generating the work orders with line items on mobile, let us know if we already have it available on the web side. So let me stop the share on the mobile, jump back over to the web, wrap up the demo piece of it with some of the benefits. Hopefully you guys have seen some of the benefits. One of the main things is that we're able to save you time with double entering, so you're not having to double enter. It's a smooth process where you're able to click a button, it creates it, and then it can click a couple buttons in Xcelerate and it syncs back to in Xactimate and it syncs back to Xcelerate. And then we can generate those work orders from the estimates, and they include the line item component breakdowns, which also includes those automatic budget calculations in the work orders and the scope that you're going to be providing your subs. You can include the sketch and the photos with the line items to send. The next question would be, how do we get started? The first thing that we need from you is to fill out an interest form. And I think, already emailed out a link for this, and a lot of you guys have already filled this out, which is awesome to see. But I will just show you guys, for those who have not filled it out and don't have the integration active right now, you should see the icon in the platform. If you click on it, it's going to say sign up. This really is just you filling out the interest form, saying, hey, I'd like more information about the Xactimate integration. So fill it out. Some very important pieces of information, your company code. This is what you would use when you're logging into the mobile app. It does just help us to identify which customer it's for. This one right here is extremely important for us to get the integration live. What we've noticed with some of you who have filled it out is that you're actually filling out your company address, like where your company's physically located. That's not what we're looking for. If you open up Xactimate and click on your account, it's going to be this right here. We're just looking for this right here. This is what is going to connect Xcelerate to your Xactimate instance. If you did send us this full address, that should work. We can also just strip it out and update that. It's not permanent. You can update it in your own interface once you have a live integration. So once your integration is live, you can go into the integrations page, edit your Xactimate here, and update your contractor Xactimate ID. And as you can see, it does include my name here, and it's still working just fine. If you do it this way, it's assigning it to a user where you might just want to assign it to the company. But either way, it will end up making it into Xactimate. So the first step is let us know you're looking for the integration. The second step is that we need you to sign an order form. So basically, this is something that we're going to be sending out for everybody who's already let us know that you're interested in the integration. We'll be sending this out. I don't know the exact ETA when this will be sent, but we're thinking in the next coming days, you should receive email with information on the order form. Now, I have the order form here in front of me. I don't think it's going to change, so I'll just at least pull it up real briefly so you have an idea about what this is. I think. Give me 1 second as I do that. But this is the order form, and it's agreeing to the pricing we just talked about, which is that based on volume. And then there's some terms and items here that talk about the integration. It is required to get the integration going is to get this filled out. So we will be sending out that in the coming days. And then after that has been accomplished, you will receive an email notification that your integration is live. And at that point, you will be able to send your jobs to Xactimate and start writing those estimates based on the workflows we described earlier in this call. We're going to move now to the Q&A. Before I jump in and start going through every question, I'm going to do some frequently asked questions because I know this might address some of them right out of the gate. Can you sync the estimate to Xactimate using the contractor profile? I was initially going to say, no, we can't. It's a limitation that we cannot do. At this point, I'm going to say not currently. I did have a call with somebody today, and it might be possible. So more to come on this. But for now, the answer is it's carrier profile only. You will have to be aware that the contractor profile and the carrier profile are not quite the same. There's slightly different information that needs to be entered into the carrier profile of Xactimate versus the contractor profile. More to come as to whether that is the case. Another question, can I import an encircle floor plan sketch into this estimate? The answer is yes. I think early on there was an issue because we were pushing the estimate in as a customer address instead of a property address, but I believe that has been resolved now. Let us know if this is your current workflow to achieve the floor plans, if you're able to get that in, but the answer I believe is yes on that. Another question, can I use the actionable profile with the estimate that's synced from Xcelerate? I believe the answer is yes. I did have a call with Seth Harrison earlier today, and we were talking about this. There might be some configurations we have to do to get it working, but we're going to be working on that front. If you have any insights on it, let us know. I believe the answer is yes, we should. And if not, we're going to push to make this a reality because we certainly want to make, if you're paying for actionable profile, we want to make sure that that is something that you can get the value of, and actionable is in the same boat. So we're all working in tandem to make that a reality. Can I sync back an estimate I've already written through the integration? We did cover this where you can merge the estimates. To reiterate, you can merge an existing estimate in Xactimate into the carrier estimate that we've sent from Xcelerate, and you can then bring that information in very, very quickly. You might run into an issue where phone numbers show up as 111. The reason is that you didn't have a phone number, and Xactimate requires a phone number. This is basically dummy data that we have to enter. As of right now, I don't see a way around it. If you can think of a better way to get around it, let me know. They do require us to put some phone numbers in, and if you haven't entered it on the job, we have to put something in there to satisfy their requirement. And then if I have synced an estimate, but I want to remove it from the job, can I do that? I didn't cover this in the demo, but I will do that right now, and then we can get to your questions. So I'm just going to open this up here. let's see, 24, 25. What you would do if you need to remove the estimate, you don't want it to be part of the job anymore, you're going to just uncheck this link button and it will pull it out of the documents, pull it out of the financial estimates, and no longer make it part of your reports. This allows you to essentially disassociate the estimate from the job very quickly without having to manually go in and delete it everywhere. That is the final frequently asked question that I was going to go through.
Thank you so much, Nathan. I really appreciate you taking the time to answer everyone's questions and show us this new integration. As Nathan said, everyone is going to receive an email with the link to the form to ask for this integration to become active. You can also find it within the desktop by clicking on that Xactimate icon. And everyone will receive a recording of this presentation afterward. Thank you so much, Nathan. Thank you, everyone, for joining us. And I hope you have a wonderful day.
Thank you.